Hello guys, my name is Fenchurch and welcome to my mini review of Shadows Heretic Kingdoms. I'm going to start off by clearing up that I accidentally deleted my old video for Shadows. I'm a bit of an idiot, but hopefully this one will make up for it, as I plan to go into more detail about the game than I did previously. So what is Shadows Heretic Kingdoms? It's an ARPG, an action role-playing game developed by Games Farm, who have made games like Air Conflict Vietnam and the original Cult Heretic Kingdoms, which was released in 2004. And without spoiling too much of the story, you control a demon known as the Devourer, who travels the world of the Shadow, or the Realm of the Dead if you prefer. The Devourer can raise people from the dead by consuming their souls, and therefore controls them as his puppets. You can have up to 3 puppets in your party at a time, each with their own skill tree, each with their own weapons and abilities, and so forth. And this is particularly good as you can spec each character to suit your party's needs. So for example, when I was playing this game, I had each character was like a different kind of damage. I had a ranged mage, I had a more tanky character, and I also had an all-out kind of melee damage character, which is the one that you're watching right now. And combat in Shadows Heretic Kingdoms can be a little bit slow to start with, especially when you compare it to other ARPGs, but as you level up and progress in the story, the added abilities and the increased difficulty and number of enemies make combat much more enjoyable. One of the best things about Shadows Heretic Kingdoms is the boss encounters, and these boss battles are usually very challenging, even on the lower difficulties, and are unique and very memorable encounters. And by that I mean that they don't just feel like a slightly harder normal enemy. They have unique abilities, and they tie directly into quest lines and the main story, so they are very memorable. Another of the really good things about Shadows is the cross-realm mechanic that they have. This basically means that you can start and complete quests, you can find secrets and fight enemies in both realms, both the realm of the living and the realm of the dead, rather than just one. And this really adds depth to the combat and the exploration, especially when you're travelling through previously visited areas. So, good points and bad points about Shadows Heretic Kingdoms. I'm going to start with the bad points, and the first and most apparent to me is the story of the game. There is a prologue when you start off, but it's very brief and doesn't really explain much about the story. This also must be one of the only games where the cutscenes are of worse quality than the actual game that you're playing. Usually the cutscenes are processed just really highly, so they've obviously really lacked a bit of attention to the story and the way that it's delivered, unfortunately. But thankfully this can be picked up in other areas, which I'll mention in just a bit. Another major bugbear for me, although not necessarily a problem depending on what kind of a game you're looking for, is the looting and the looting system. Gear drops in this game are fairly rare, and I very rarely felt the need to use the in-game weapon / armor building system, and so most of my character's improvements came through leveling abilities, passive abilities, and stats basically. I think I've played this game for about 17 hours, and in that whole time I probably re-geared each of my characters once. So if you're looking for a fast-paced, loot-focused game, then this is really not going to be for you. There's also no co-op mode, which is a bit of a shame, as this is kind of standard for ARPGs these days. So, the combat's not initially enjoyable, the story is lacking. You're probably asking now, why should I play this game? Well, I can say that if you're willing to put in the time, Shadows Heretic Kingdoms does get a lot better in terms of combat and in terms of learning about the story. And there are many things about it that are good. For starters, it's really easy to get to grips with the game. The UI, the map, movement, combat is really easy to understand and get to grips with. And while the combat might be a little bit slow, having 4 characters to switch between at will does help make it more interesting. The level design and graphics are really nice, as I'm sure you can see. There's a lot of kind of hidden areas and alternative paths you can take. And exploration and questing is really enjoyable in general. And having 2 realms to switch between really adds that depth and character to the game that just other games don't have. Questing is particularly enjoyable, and quite often when you're questing you get moral choices, and these choices they might not be massive game changers, but the outcome directly affects the game in one way or another. And as far as I'm aware, this is pretty unique to ARPGs, and it's good to see something like that included. I mentioned earlier about the main story and the cutscenes lacking a bit of attention. Thankfully this is eased a little by the books and the lore that you find dotted around in the game, and if you can be bothered to read these, they fill in the gaps and create a more believable world. And the voice acting is also really good, so that helps towards what I was saying earlier about the story not being presented so well. This is book 1 of 2. The second part is being released in February 2015, and I'll probably be reviewing that as well. If you guys have any questions, or if there's something that I didn't cover in the video, drop a comment below, or you can send me a message on Twitter. I've also included links for the Shadows Heretic Kingdoms website in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Fenchurch, and I'll see you next time.